and welcome into episode 13 of the Broncos Europe podcast for this current season. I'm quite surprised we've made it this far, Kieran. We're doing well, aren't we?
Doing very well, very well. Never been known, has it?
It's been great going so far. It's been an enjoyable ride, and we've just introduced him there, I'm joined by my ever trusted co-host, Mr. Kieran Morley. How's your week been?
Yeah, great. Again, we're watching clips, aren't we, Mark? We're seeing bits. We've got media to turn our attention to, stories coming out. So it's, there's football content. It's always good when there's football content. So, yeah, happy little chat to do.
Yeah, like you said, it makes it a lot easier when there's actual football to watch, and with mandatory training camp currently in play, or might have just finished as time of recording live here. It's been nice to see some actual football being played and being able to watch the clips on YouTube and on Twitter and all the socials. And it's been nice to see a new face in town, which is the topic of today. I'll let you introduce this one, Kieran.
Yeah, you're right, Mark. We've had OTAs, had mini camp, but the topic we're going to discuss is the one and only Mr. J.K. Dobbins putting pen to paper on about a £5 million 1 year deal. £5 million, there's British coming in. $5 million. But I'll put my teeth in this time. But yeah, he signed a 1 year deal with the Broncos, and it was one of those discussions before the draft and then after the draft. Would we add a veteran to that room? And I think J.K. Dobbins was probably the veteran that was on most people's minds if we were to do that. And it must have been the same person that was on Sean and George's mind, because they've gone out and they've snagged him. And in my opinion, a great acquisition to what was shaping up to be quite a competitive running back room.
Yeah, I mean, the running back room last year was a bit lackluster, shall we say?
Yeah.
We had potential there with Javonte Williams. Unfortunately, he never returned to his pre-injury form. The excitement that we had from him there. Obviously, we had Jaleel McLaughlin, who showed bursts. He's still with us. He showed glimpses of excitement and the big playability that we all crave as Broncos fans. And obviously, we had the rookie Audric Estime in there, along with some, Blake Watson. I'm sure there were some others along the line as well that did get some. What I'm happy to see with J.K. Dobbins coming in and R.J. Harvey is it looks like we will have a two-pronged attack in my eyes.
Yeah, and I think that was the bit, wasn't it, where not that he cannot do it, but the doubt so far is R.J. Harvey in every down back. And I think, that transition to NFL, would we see, what's his pass protection like? Can he line up in those plays? We know he's a bit of a dual threat with his stats he's put up in college. He's going to run the ball well. But I think bringing in Dobbins and that little bit he's got in his game where, a lot better, unseen, but we know he is good in pass protection. He can come in. And I think straight away that gets him a few more snaps and gets him in that rotation quite early, purely off that. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and it's a player that I think adds something that we maybe are missing. Not the veteran presence. That's something else. We maybe come on to that in a minute. But just in terms of if we're looking at sort of key skill set for a running back and what you want in your running back room, he just fills a couple of them gaps that we maybe don't have in that room at the moment.
Yeah, obviously he's a veteran running back now. He was probably the best running back on the market as a free agent. So I'm glad the Broncos have struck whilst they can. Obviously they brought him in for a meal with the coaches and then in-person meetings at the training ground. He was with a very well-known opponent last year with the LA Chargers and was pretty good early on in the season. He had two big games to open the season. And then sort of died down a little bit before an injury, derailed him. But I'm just looking at stats here. I'll read them off for last season. With the Chargers, he had 195 attempts for 905 yards, averaging 4.6 yards a carry and 9 touchdowns. That blows Broncos running backs out the water, really.
Yeah, and the stat that I saw earlier today, Mark, was despite missing 3 games, which it's a quite high proportion of the NFL season, scored more touchdowns combined than he scored more touchdowns than our running back room combined. And that's the thing when we're looking, should we bring in this type of player in? What's he going to contribute? I think straight away, we have improved the room. R.J. Harvey has improved that room. Like you say, Javonte Williams never bounced back from that injury. We never saw those angry runs we were getting in, the first year or so. But we have strengthened that room. But bringing in somebody of, a career year, really, isn't it, for him? J.K. Dobbins last year, that, those numbers are pretty good for somebody, gets those 3 games in. It's a 1,000-yard season. That's what it is. So yeah, I think it's a low risk. It's we haven't chucked a lot of money at him. The injuries potentially are a little bit of a concern, but
Well, I think that's a theme of the Broncos free agency this year, isn't it? They've got all the players, the big names we brought in: Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Evan Engram, now J.K. Dobbins. They've all had an injury history, but if there's one team, medical team that can solve this and potentially not have them, have those injuries again, it's the Broncos, who had a really clean, healthy roster last year.
Yeah, and that was a far cry from what it was a few years back when we just had people dropping like Tifa, not in today, dropping like flies in training camp and things like that, and then early in the season, pre-season and such. But we proved it last year, like you say, we had a pretty clean bill of health, which is what you need when you're trying to get into the playoffs and have that good run. You need your players there. So, for what we've paid, regardless, Mark, don't let him have a snap. I think it's a good acquisition for this team with the running back room as it is in terms. Jaleel McLaughlin now is the veteran presence outside of J.K. Dobbins. That's how young the room is. So bringing somebody in like this, and he's still young himself, 26 years old, but getting that presence in there, just somebody who's been around the block a little bit in the NFL, knows what to expect. It's going to do wonders for that room. But I think we see him playing quite a high proportion of snaps early doors, and I think that, for me, I don't know what your views are, I think we'll see a pretty even share between him and RJ Harvey initially. And I think that's predominantly because of, like I say, what he can offer in pass protection and things like that. But that might unravel a little bit as we get into training camp and things, and we see, how they plan to use players a little bit more, I suppose.
Yeah, like I say, he was with Baltimore before he was at LA, and he had a down year in 2023 with a big injury. He had 8 attempts for 22 yards. His big year was in 2020, where he rushed for 805 yards on only 134 carries, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. That's pretty decent, way above what the Broncos were doing last year. I think Javonte had, he was under 3 yards a carry come the end of the season. But if he can get rocking and rolling behind our O-line, which is one of the best in the league, there's going to be holes there. There are going to be holes he can hit hard, and he's a downhill runner. He's still got some speed left in him. I just think it's a really savvy piece of business to bring someone like him in, whilst we've got the youngsters, Audric Estime and RJ Harvey there, who are going to learn from him. And J.K. Dobbins, he came out with a statement, didn't he, saying that about RJ Harvey, saying, he's going to be a special back in the league, especially under Sean Payton. He's going to help him with his game, and RJ Harvey's going to help J.K. Dobbins improve his game. So he's coming here. He's not like he's shirking his veteran responsibilities and saying, I don't want to, I'm going to be the star here. I'm not helping anyone.
No. And what it is, he's still young enough to he's got a year deal to come in, and it's that type of presence. If you do a good job, 26, yeah, we know the running back lifespan's short in the NFL. It's a thankless task at times, getting hit, but there's potentially a further contract we had, and I liked his statement. 2 statements. The one where he's basically said he's here to win a Super Bowl. I know every player wants to say that and such, but I think there's a legitimacy there from players when they come in and looking at the Broncos now, that they know that we're hopefully going to be competing and they can see that path. And that's always good when the Chargers, who were maybe in that conversation as well, and there's a player there, he's going to see it because he's come and signed for the Broncos. But when it shows that there's almost that preference there, and he likes what we're building, he likes what we're doing. And it was that second comment where he just said, "Yeah, I get to play them twice, or they've got to play me twice a year now, or whatever it was." So
yeah.
I like that confidence. But I suppose my question for you, Mark, with this is: last year we saw Javonte and Jaleel McLaughlin kind of splitting carries somewhat, although we'd argue Javonte was running back one. We then had a bit of Estime in, and he maybe saw a little bit and was a little bit better towards the end of the year. And then it was an absolute splattering of Tyler Beatty and Blake Watson. Didn't play a lot at all. Before the Dobbins signing, if you ask me, I think you'd go, your running back one is RJ Harvey. Running back two is probably Estime. He's your third round draft pick from third round draft pick from 2024. You've invested some capital in him. You want to see him progress and maybe, put some of the wrongs right from last year. And I think he did start to show that. And then Jaleel sort of becomes your change of pace guy. But with Dobbins kind of fitting that role of a bit more of an RJ Harvey and a bit more of an Audric Estime, do you see Estime, saying we're cutting him by any means or anything like that, but he's, and if you're looking beyond this year with what we've got Dobbins for 1 year and a 1 year deal at the moment, do you see Estime drop down that depth chart a little bit because of this acquisition? And do you see more of Jaleel McLaughlin or the same amount of Jaleel McLaughlin, but we see less of Audric Estime just of what's being brought in?
Interesting, isn't it? Sean Payton came out yesterday, I think, after the day of training, and Kim said, "Yeah, I see a lot of you counting. Don't start counting because a lot of you are going to be wrong." So the obvious choice is J.K. Dobbins is going to be your 1, RJ Harvey is going to be your 2, and Audric Estime is going to be your 3. I do think Estime is going to take a jump in year 2. He's got to. If he's going to be a top running back in the league this year, he's going to make that jump up from his rookie year. His game is very similar to J.K. Dobbins. I think he's a downhill runner. He's a powerful guy, and he's going to run through tackles. Jaleel's changed the pace, isn't he? He's the speedster.
He's the speedster, and that's the bit where, for me, I was thinking, does this now mean he gets a little bit more, because that is something we haven't got, whereas Dobbins is, and we don't want to become sort of two-dimensional in the terms of, pass protection to J.K. Dobbins, he's going out past players, and RJ, and we only use Estime on goal line situations and short yardage and things, which we potentially line. And I know that Sean's not like that, but that change of pace guy.
One big thing that we know about Sean is he rotates his players. He doesn't do the normal, does he? He doesn't go out there and just play by the normal rules of NFL. He will do things his way, and if he wants to use 4 or 5 running backs in a game, he's going to do it, as long as it gives us the best chance to win. If he sees that opportunity, he's going to use whatever he can. I mean, let's say if you put Marvin Mims as running back towards the end of the season, so who knows who's going to play there? Could we see Marvin Mims play running back snaps again this year?
Yeah, you're right. And I think, it adds that little level of excitement, doesn't it, watching what he's going to dial up. We said it when he signed Evan Engram. We said it when he signed RJ Harvey, and he's brought in Bryant and such in the draft, and we're looking at it going, right, that offense now looks like it's a little bit more complete. There's there's a few more options there, and it just feeds into him dialing up some unknowns and being hard to defend against. But I think in my gut feeling, Mark, I think we're at the minute as it's lined up, we'd see a bit of a split between, if you're putting the ratings on them in terms of running back, I think 1A, 1B. I think it's a pretty split committee at the top of the Dobbins and Harvey, and I think knock them down a bit, like a 3A, 3B is kind of maybe the usage we'll see, but again, quite split between Estime and McLaughlin, but hopefully seeing a bit more of Estime as the year goes on, and maybe Spheres now, and as he gets his comfort and progression.
Where does that put Blake Watson and Tyler Beatty then?
Yeah, it's very much on the fringes, isn't it? And it's a shame because Tyler Beatty's shown glimpses.
He was our best running back last year.
Yeah, them few games towards the end and such. And again, Blake Watson, there's the reports where he was showing glimpses, he was looking good, but and again last year, they got their opportunity because the 3 ahead of them on the depth chart, or the 4 ahead of them on the depth chart, were just not performing, and that was a be all end all. This year, I think hopefully it'll be a lot different, and it'll lower the chances of them seeing the field, in all honesty, Mark, for me. So practice squad and the like, so potentially even worse for some, because how many you're carrying into the season. We've got the depth there.
The NFL's a numbers game. If you don't, they can only carry so many running backs.
Yeah,
a few unlucky players, but those players are more than good enough to go be a 3rd running back on another team, or 2nd running back on another team. Just a big shout out to Rachel, who's joined us. Wasn't quick enough with the dishes, but so you missed the start. But hey, guys, finally made it. It's great to have you on board, Rachel. I know you're a massive Broncos fan and support us in what we're doing, so it's great to have you here. Where do you think J.K. Dobbins and the running back room stands? It'd be great if you could get in touch there and just with your opinions, and we'll get that read out as well. Yes, it's an exciting time for the running back
Yeah,
room. I know
I think
before the season we were very down on it, weren't we? Before the draft, and then suddenly RJ Harvey comes in, and it's an exciting prospect room to be excited for. And then obviously the veteran presence J.K. Dobbins comes in and solidifies that to be an exciting room now.
yeah, and as I said before, Matt, I don't think the room. I'm not saying it's the strongest running back room in the NFL now by any means, but I don't think it is lacking anything now. I'm not saying they're the best at all. You know, we've got the best running backs, we've got the best pass catching backs, we've got the best pass protection, but we've got it, if you know what I mean. And I think, I think RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are about the same size, same build, but different players. And that's the bit that's going to be exciting how to see how they're used. I think, talked about when we drafted RJ Harvey, what you seem to see is that patience behind the line, and he's elusive, he's agile, he's going to wait for that gap and then burst through it. Difficult to tackle, he'll get the yards after contact. Whereas J.K. Dobbins, we're probably going to see a little bit more Audric Estimate. They're going to typical, short, stocky, plow through, get that,
Holding
and again,
balls.
be difficult to tackle. So we've got a little bit of difference there, and then we've got the speed option at the moment. And you see, we'll line up Marvin Mims in the backfield sometimes, and even further speed and elusiveness and such. So it'll be interesting. I think that's the key thing. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out because, as Sean said, don't count the reps, don't count how many snaps they're getting in training and minicamp in OTAs. You're not going to see anything yet, and I think there'll be a lot of it close to the chest until, they can no longer hide it. But he's got a nice pool of weapons there now, isn't he? That's the key thing.
I think it's also very hard to evaluate running backs until the pads come on.
Yeah.
And that will happen until a couple, training camp starts. So, yeah, I think it's an exciting time for the running back room. Delighted to have acquired J.K. Dobbins, and we've been crying out for this move for the last couple of weeks, really. But yeah, like I say, mandatory training camp is on. Have you seen anything online? Obviously, we don't get to see, but I just get to see a few clips online. But is anyone who's stood out so far that
Have you seen?
reports?
Have you seen Henchbornix?
Henchbonix is all over the timeline. He's been
He
working
is.
out.
He has been working out, but the key thing you're reading about that is
Did he give you your tickets
what for to the gun show.
to the gun show? Yeah.
Oh, I knew that was coming. I walked into it as well. I even teed it up. But no, I think the key thing with that, what we've seen, I think Cody Rock had reported on it, put a couple of clips up of him, a couple of photos. He looks massive, but he said the key thing is he's not lost that burst and that that running game. So we'll still see agile, fast Bonix picking up some yards. So that's the key thing. But yeah, he's looking more robust and maybe he's even a little bit more on that cannon if he can.
Hey, anything to improve his game, as long as he's not lost that burst, because that was an exciting part of his game and kept us in a lot of games last year.
And as a rookie, it gets you, it gets you that breathing space, gets you out of trouble, doesn't it? If you haven't adjusted so much to the NFL and you take that split second a bit longer, right? Let's get them legs moving. And we saw it with Russell Wilson, his legs, somebody who thrived in that and moving out of the pocket in peak career, just the legs are gone and it costs you.
Running in treacle.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll move on to Crawshaw news. We're gonna do a feature throughout training camp. The Crawshaw Express, we'll call it, something like that, where we just talk about our favourite player, our Jeremy.
What have you seen? What have you heard? Because I've been quite sparse on Crawshaw news.
Hey, when you know where to look, when you've got insiders for Crawshaw news, he's been booming some punts, right?
Good.
Some high. I think Andrew Mason is going to be loving him. He's the one to go to for the all the information on punts in games. Anyway, he gives all the stats out. Hang time, total yardage and things like that. But I think he is a match made in heaven with Denver for the thin air.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to don my Crawshaw jersey in London.
Yeah. When you get yours, get mine. And we'll get the Tashes ordered as well. We said this, can't we?
Yeah,
I could start now, and I still wouldn't grow it in. That's the problem.
At least you give it a go. But yeah, he's one that I've seen a little bit about. 7th round tight end Caleb Lone has been making plays over the last couple of days. Apparently today he's made a fantastic leaping catch over someone, which isn't hard when you're 6'7", I guess.
No. Is it a leap or is it just a?
Just a little.
I think the key one I've seen of last couple of days reports is Brian in that wide receiver room. I think what we're hearing is crisp route running. He's looking sharp, he's looking fit, he's looking agile. So I think we've gotten again as we said at the time, it wasn't who we're expecting in the draft by any means in the running back room and the wide receiver room. There weren't the weapons, but everything that's come out since is positive, and it's just another year, as we said prior, of it seems on paper so far, touch wood, a lot of legs to go, but a very good, successful draft and some sneaky weapons. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they pan out. And as Rachel's put in her comment there, the important thing is how they link with Bo Nix. But so far, the reports out of OTAs and minicamp is it's all looking peachy.
Yeah, obviously very early on in the cycle, they'll break after today. And what I did like is that they have practice today. Sean Payton came out and said, "There's no sugar days. This is a salt day."
Yeah,
they've got to earn it. They've got to play. There's, a few of the past head coaches would have maybe done a family fun day today or something like that. But not Sean Payton. He does things his own way, like we said before. But yeah, it's an exciting time in Denver. Hopefully, there'll be a lot more to talk about in the over coming weeks as well. We've had some very exciting meetings on our own Broncos Europe news over the last few days, finalising or starting to put some plans together for our events in London, which we will reveal sort of over the next few months. So don't ask us when we're not releasing anything. That things are in the pipeline, and it's very, very exciting times for us. So please stick with us. Hopefully there'll be membership options and things like that coming soon. But any ideas, or if you want to volunteer to help us out, we are obviously just a group of fans running this account. So we'd love for people to get involved. Just message one of us on Twitter or join the WhatsApp and just get speaking to us and see if there's a way you can help, because it would be it's a massive help to us.
It might have gotten Rachel out of doing the dishes, mightn't it, tonight? She could have been sat on here with us, Mark, instead of doing the washing.
We could have got you out doing the dishes a little bit, Rachel. But yeah, it's an exciting time for us, and we just love you to continue supporting us on Twitter and all the socials at Broncos EUR. Give us a follow and share the podcast around so we can just reach more Broncos country. But yeah, thanks again for joining me, Kieran. It's been a short but sweet podcast, but we've got a lot to discuss there. And I look forward to one next week where we will finalise our topic in the week, I shall say.